Friends out there, Uber drivers and Lyft drivers, listen up. We have major breaking news. I'm not going to be the one to announce it. I'm going to allow Manib Rehman and Edward Escobar, who pulled off an amazing media feat in New York City. I'm so super proud of these gentlemen, especially Manib putting this together and Edward putting his whole Uber and Lyft media weight behind it. So huge success. On the line with me. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Edward and Manib, you have center stage, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having us. The Rideshare Professor is getting the word out. From San Francisco, Edward Escobar here, Alliance for Independent Workers, the #DriversUnite movement, and we have also Manib Rehman from New York City, our lead Drivers Unite team member, who is making things happen in New York City with the support, of course, from Drivers Unite across the country. So I'm going to pass the baton over here to Manib, and he could explain what went down yesterday.
Edward, do you want to give us the big breaking news before we jump into the New York City? What is the big breaking news?
Okay, the late breaking news this morning, Governor Newsom signs officially AB 5. So it is official, ladies and gentlemen. Assembly Bill 5 has passed. So we are now, if Uber and Lyft do not change their business model, then they will have to treat us like employees in terms of giving the rights. And you're going to see a lot of lawsuits happening now. With this breaking news coming out, because it's going to be retroactive for all the damages that they've done to drivers for the past 4 years.
Exactly.
Past 4 years. So it's going to be a windfall of some money for a lot of individuals that have suffered the onslaught of Uber and Lyft abusing the rights of workers and drivers across the country. So
exactly.
But in California only for now, but we're looking to push this legislation, AB-style legislation, across the country. And New York City, actually the governor is really hot on pushing this to a higher degree than even California did. So look forward to that.
Cool. Manib, tell us about your amazing media coverage in New York and what a great job you did. Super proud of you. Go ahead.
Well, hi, good afternoon. How are you, Rideshare Professor and Edward Escobar? Thank you so much. And that's the pretty good news to hear about AB 5. And Edward, he's sitting in the belly of the beast right there, and we can see what's coming towards Uber. I mean, we've been telling them to be fair to the drivers from a long time.
Exactly.
And they just, they didn't do anything about it, and they were thinking, we can manipulate, and then it came to. They brought it this far.
Yeah.
As far as New York, we made some pretty big noise here.
Yes, you did.
The other day, everybody, the best thing was I've never seen drivers coming out like this.
Love it. Passion. Love it.
I mean, literally the streets were flooded.
Love it.
The streets were flooded. NYPD, it took them literally 2 hours to cover this whole thing from Brooklyn all the way to Gracie Mansions.
And the pictures, I mean, the footage, the helicopter footage, the pictures were amazing. I mean, this massive fleet of black cars just rolling along.
And you know what? And here's the thing about it. Like NYPD, we respect the police.
Yes.
These guys are out there. We are on the streets. They are on the streets, so we know how the streets are.
Yes. Yes.
So we don't have any grief. I mean, these guys are out there, looking after people, and that's what we are doing. But the other day when we were doing this caravan, they did their job and they split us up into different segments.
Okay.
When we were lined up to to start, we were about like over 1,000 cars.
Really? Wow. So they split
We
you
were
up
like
into
over like,
different groups?
exactly.
And I mean, intentionally to break you up a little bit, but I mean...
We started from Navy Street and Park Avenue under BQE in Brooklyn, and then the route was to get onto Brooklyn Bridge and then FDR all the way up. And it was like 1,500, maybe more cars, because we still had like another 300 cars coming like 2 hours later, and they were at FDR. So,
Excellent.
So it was a big crowd. IDG, I wanted to say that they organized pretty well as well.
Beautiful.
It was when I spoke to Aziz and like we brought them out, and they did a great job. I mean,
Yeah.
But now the thing is that it doesn't end here. This is the problem, because I'm not seeing so far that Uber is implementing that policy, but there are a few reports coming out that there are a few drivers who have been locked out. So we're going to see if it happens more, then we're going to announce another one
You have to.
within the 24 hours of implementation of that policy they are doing. And this time I'm saying that at least it's going to be 5,000 cars, and we want to let the NYPD know, and we want to get all the permits, and we want to make sure that we stay as peaceful as we want.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the streets are going to be flooded. And
Yeah.
what I'm thinking, it's not only going to be in Manhattan. We're going to call this one in all 5 boroughs, all 3 airports, and then like they would need to pay attention to it.
Right. So my rideshare friends that are adding their messages here as we are talking, if we look at what they have achieved in New York City, right? Edward, Munib, it sounds like this whole Caravan idea. I mean, if this was done nationwide, organized, obviously in an organized fashion, media involved. You guys were a 1,000 car strong. They broke you up into smaller groups. But if this happens all around the country, I mean, this got massive media attention, folks. It was on all channels. So this is what Uber and Lyft dread. They hate the fact that we're engaging the media. So these guys, Munib and his crew, Edward, they all did an amazing job. And it doesn't end here. We have to keep on putting the pressure on Uber until they hear us loud and clear, right? Edward, a word or two on that.
Well, I want to address the fact that, look, we don't encourage drivers putting themselves in harm's way and coming to a cold stop. We encourage to do a slow roll, and a slow roll is generally 5 miles underneath the posted speed limit.
Okay.
So that is for safety's sake, and also we don't want drivers being singled out and having to pay fines and penalties and possibly have their driving privileges removed. We can't afford to have that happen. But I do want to say that, look, there's some people that are commenting in your group that have so much concern about the general public.
Yeah.
People, yes, we have to break a few eggshells sometimes in order to get attention. It was only for a couple hours. It wasn't the end of the world.
Yeah.
But, it has been the end of the world for 9 drivers in New York City that committed suicide.
Correct.
Okay, that's how serious we're talking about. 8+ drivers that have died from workers' exhaustion in San Francisco. So, we got to do what we got to do in order to bring attention to this major issue that's affecting not just drivers, it's affecting riders, it's affecting the rest of the world as well, not just the U.S. So we have to be willing to push beyond. Don't walk on eggshells.
Yep.
Do you think the riders and the general public really care about our plight? No, they don't, until we make them care about it. And this is how we do it, is we get attention in the media. This was successful. This was a springboard for everything else to come.
Yeah, exactly.
Bigger and better each and every time. So folks, it's always easier to comment from the peanut gallery. Step up or step off, but we don't need the negative naysayers. We've already addressed the safety issues, and now we want to proceed so that we can have success for everyone. But of course, safety is number one, and we want to be working with the general public, but we need them to work with us as well. So they need to pay attention to what's going on because it's affecting everyone. I did want to also address some of these issues that are posted as them stating that these are the issues that are of concern. In the board behind you,
Okay.
If you could take a look at that.
Yes. So what's changing for drivers? The cap on number of drivers in the city. The next bullet point was...
Let's address that first, point by point.
Let's do that one.
Okay, so repeat the first one, Torsten.
The cap on number of drivers in the city.
Okay, first of all, that has to do with the vehicle cap that happened already a year ago. That is a cap on vehicles. That is a misnomer for them to say a cap on drivers. It is a cap on vehicles. We are actually calling for a cap on drivers. No new drivers. We are already oversaturated in every major market around the country and around the world. No new drivers. They need to take care of the existing drivers that are on the books right now. So how we envision this, with no new drivers added, with a cap on drivers, see, one driver equals one vehicle. One vehicle, if you put a cap on a vehicle, then that vehicle could be driven 24/7 by several drivers.
Right.
So, and it's allowing them to continue to onboard more and more drivers. That benefits the city because they collect more licensing fees and everything else, permits and everything else. And it also benefits Uber and Lyft and these other app-based companies because they're continuing to expand their ranks and they can continue to replace us. So if we put a cap on the numbers of drivers, not on vehicles, then by limiting the supply, then we increase our value. And by default, there'll be a natural equilibrium because a lot of drivers, as you know, are not meant to be drivers. They should just drop off. So we need to thin the herd, but let's do it naturally. Let's not just purge. Let's not purge the drivers because people that are out there, they need it. So let the people drop off that should drop off or that are not meant to be there to begin with. And it'll find its natural equilibrium. So that's point number one.
Number two, establishes minimum pay for the 80,000 New York City drivers.
Right, now that's the minimum floor pay that they're referring to. It's not a minimum wage. It's a minimum floor pay. So you could make more than that, but you could imagine that Uber and Lyft are going to work their algorithms so that way they only have to pay you what little they can. So the 27, I think it's the 28. Monique, if you could clarify, I think it's 28.75 or so is the gross hourly, and then the net is going to be like 17.85 or so.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't make sense. I mean, like the structure.
New York City. New York City, $17 an after costs and everything. It's like, no, that doesn't make sense. Go ahead.
But see, the thing over here, and which I wanted to highlight it. So this minimum wage, this is a serious thing. I mean, like, which needs serious attention as well. That this minimum wage is only implemented on Uber X drivers.
Okay.
We are talking about New York City. You have a huge number of black car and SUV drivers.
Correct.
So history is repeating itself. The way they destroyed the yellow cab industry,
right,
it's exactly the same way they're doing it to the black car industry.
Correct.
I mean, and then Uber recently, they changed their car categories. So they have taken out a lot of cars from their black car and SUV fleet, which includes a 2017 Expedition. It cannot be a black car or an SUV. It has to be an X and XL. It's a $50,000 truck. There's already thousands and thousands of drivers who went out and got the cars because Uber told them that this car is acceptable. And then 2 years later, when that driver has a loan on him for 5 years or for 4 years, is stuck with it. Now he's been manipulated and he's been forced to work as an XL driver and not a black card driver.
Okay, good. Thank you for clarifying that, Manib. Can I jump on to the third point?
Yes,
it
sir.
limits cruising time between pickups. It limits cruising time between pickups.
Okay, so Munib, do you want to address that?
So what they are saying that
basically we're calling it a cruising cap.
Okay.
Well, it is a cruising cap because the mayor doesn't want Uber and Lyft cars to be in Manhattan, in Midtown area when they don't have the jobs, when the drivers they don't have the right
Requests.
Exactly. No, there's gonna be requests, but they just don't want them to drive around empty. You know.
Right. So, they're basing it on the numbers of riders that are on the app and making requests, and based on that, then they're determining how many drivers should be available. And so that's how they're putting a cap on the cruising. They don't want like the driver to be active on the platform, just cruising around between rides.
The utilization rate. It's the utilization rate, and what I think we on the next episode, I think we should talk about the utilization rate.
Okay.
And if this goes in, if this policy gets implemented, what Uber is going to do with their algorithms to these drivers who are already being taken advantage of by the algorithms? Because I mean, like Uber is controlling everybody through the algorithms with their reward programs and all that kind of stuff. That we need to do like a separate thing on it, because there's a lot of new drivers who doesn't understand that what is actually the key of manipulation here, which so we can do a separate one on that.
Okay.
So basically, Mayor de Blasio and the TLC via Uber, Lyft, the apps, with this cruising cap, they're killing the flexibility and freedom that Uber and Lyft have been touting for some time. Lyft had already started doing that actually earlier in June. So Uber doing that, which has a significant market share, much more than Lyft in New York City, that's the straw that broke the camel's back, because that's going to hurt a lot of folks. And the reason being is that, see, these leasing companies,
yes,
they have the drivers have to pay for the leases and for the cost that they purchase their vehicle, whether they're driving and have riders or not, whether they're getting income or not, they still have to pay.
Correct.
So these folks are being driven into poverty, despair, and suicide. So look for the suicide rate in New York City to increase dramatically. And that is a very, very serious issue.
That's sad. Yeah, exactly. Well,
so
go ahead.
It's a job killer. It's a driver killer is basically what it is. And de Blasio, he's still in the game running for president.
Right.
So he is very vulnerable.
Yeah.
He hasn't thrown in the towel yet, so he's still very vulnerable. And the TLC, let me tell you, those commissioners on the TLC, the Taxi Livery Commission, we've got them on video being called out by one of our collaborators, Raul Rivera, New York City Drivers Unite, and he said, shame on TLC, shame on them. And this one commissioner said, yes, shame on us because we don't know what to do. What?
Wow.
Really? So, yes, but they don't have any drivers on this commission. They don't have any real connection with what's going on in the streets. There's no working trenches insight, because all these folks are detached from reality of what's happening on the streets.
Right.
So that's really bad.
Yeah, exactly. The final one, it said Lyft changed policy in June, locking out drivers during low demand. Lyft changed policy in June, locking out drivers during low demand?
Right. As I mentioned earlier, Lyft basically got the jump on it, and their reasoning behind that being self-inflicted is because they want what Monique was mentioning, the utilization rate and that minimum floor wage requirement. They wanted to reduce their financial exposure as much as possible. So they started doing that on their own.
Right.
At this time, with de Blasio and the TLC, they're the ones that are driving it. And de Blasio has a little bit of payback also for Uber, because Uber made him look terrible in the past.
Okay.
Where they did their campaigns and they really had shut down de Blasio's resistance to Uber's presence in New York City and them riding roughshod over regulations and so on and so forth. And they launched a whole write-in campaign using the app and using the general public, how they are very effective in doing.
Yeah.
So as you can see, this is a little bit of payback, but this is not being done the right way. What they should do really is just cap the drivers, not a cruising cap. Cap the numbers of drivers.
Okay.
Let the existing base of drivers have a chance to make a go at it and to have some market share instead of them oversaturating the market, which makes it quite unsustainable for many folks. And as you know, by comparison, New York City has the most professional full-time drivers across the board. I mean, they have so many license and fees and permit requirements. They have to jump through a lot of hoops in order to drive what they do. Their commitments are much higher financially than what you experience in any other part of the country.
That's true.
California.
Very true. We just mentioned California.
They roll out of bed.
They roll
out of bed and they decide, oh, I want to drive for Uber, and like within 24 hours they could be driving. So there's no comparison. So New York City, I take my hat off to them when it comes to serious, committed, professional drivers. And Rideshare Professor, you focusing your attention on this is really going to enhance and increase the level of exposure and bring on a lot more drivers that are serious drivers.
100%.
To your base of support.
Exactly.
Oh, definitely, because you're on the cutting edge here. No other YouTuber is touching these topics like you are. You're getting late breaking news out there very successfully. So we applaud you and commend you on your continued focus on these topics that are serious issues affecting drivers, riders, and all gig workers across the country.
Yeah, and I would like other fellow YouTubers to push this media issue further. Push it as far as you can. Don't be shy to bring out the topics. Don't be shy to talk about the topics. We got to get this out in the open. Edward, just briefly jumping back to California with you announcing that Governor Newsom signed the AB5. Basically, the parties have to sit down now. Let's say this all plays out in January. I mean, they have literally a few months to hash out some better deals, right? Better than we are right now. They're going to be sitting down and talking with one another. How do you see this? How do you see that playing out?
It's not just between now and then.
Right.
It's going to be an ongoing process of tweaking this legislation.
Okay.
That's just the official rollout date.
Yep.
But like anything that it has good potential, you have to tweak it. Nothing in this world is ever perfect the first time out. So it's a constant process, and it's going to need the adjustments as we move forward. But there's not going to be any special carve-outs given to an organization that doesn't even acknowledge the serious contributions of the drivers, and that is Uber and Lyft that we're referring to. But there's also other gig companies that are out there. DoorDash is right there in the trenches, throwing in $30 million alongside Uber and Lyft to fight this. So look for them to try to battle this out.
There's going to be a
We're
battle.
going to challenge it like they always do. So expect that to happen, but the tide is turning against them.
Yeah.
Let there be consequences, because this is what corporations behaving badly brings. And this is called consequences for all these years
Correct.
of riding roughshod over society and over the rights of workers.
Correct. I agree with you. So that signature is huge, that signature that we got.
Yes.
Gentlemen, I have to rock on. I have a very, very busy day ahead. I got to get to my kiddos. I'm glad that we got through this in under 30 minutes. You know, you have an open line to me. You guys can check in anytime. Just let's set up the next topic. We'll get it out there. We'll set a time. And I truly appreciate it.
I just want to add one more thing before we wrap up, and that is people look at upcoming events to be happening on 10/4, October 4th.
10/4. I'm going to be spending
the country.
Yeah, I'm going to be spending a lot of time talking about 10/4, folks.
Yeah, 10/4 and 10/4. Think about it. 10/4, good buddy. We're going to be collaborating with our new partners, our collaborative partners, strategic partners, the truckers.
The truckers.
So that's why it relates to 10/4. So you're
10/4, 10/4.
If you thought that black car shutdown that happened on the Brooklyn Bridge was significant, wait until you see this combined with truckers, because they are facing the same common enemy, which is coming down the pipeline, and that is AI, self-driving, autonomous vehicles.
Right.
So, and they are also impacted by this AB5 and the misclassification of employment. So we have a lot of things in common. So realize we're all drivers, we're all workers, we're all human beings. Correct. So we have a lot in common, and we are rising together. So onward and upward, brothers and sisters.
Thank you.
In the fight, and that we will overcome.
Thank you, Edward. Thank you, Munib, so much for calling in. I appreciate you guys. And Munib, fantastic job there in New York City. We appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. We're not finished yet. We just
that's the beginning.
And see what Uber comes up with. And if they implement this policy, we're gonna call out for another caravan, and this time it's gonna be in all 5 boroughs.
And you'll have my support. You'll always have my support.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate you.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Thank
you.
Thank you, Edward. Thank you, Munib. So great. I mean, you know, to me, these caravans are working. Sure. I mean, somebody, I think Payman Ali said, love you back, Payman, my friend from Vegas. Payman brought up a good point that, you know, the public might not like these shutdowns or these slow rolls, but more and more the public are understanding why we are doing this, right? There's a reason behind this. And you know, what I think would be extremely effective if we look at media models that work, these protests and strikes, we did them at the hubs in LA, Los Angeles, San Francisco, around the country, coordinated. It worked. National, international media exposure. These slow caravans sticking to the rules, not stopping the traffic, but just slowing the traffic down. Helicopters above, look at the pictures. This works. The media was there. So, you know, we got to keep on pushing until we get our rights restored, until we get our value restored. That's what I stand for, right? And I'm not backing down. So, you know, whether we can have a group of drivers in Pittsburgh, in Miami, in Denver, Albuquerque, Vegas, wherever it is, say, hey, you know what? We'd like to do a caravan like this. We are going to draw the permits. We are going to do this peacefully. We are going to do this correctly. We are going to alert the media. And then we have a little bit of time to prepare for the day. So the next big one, 10/4, 10/4, we're going to stand behind the truckers. We are going to push and push and push until they hear us and treat us the way we deserve, with respect and with dignity, folks, right? We are not just, we cannot just be ignored as just a non-identity to them. I'm just quote Tony West, they are not the core of our company. Big F you, Tony. I'm sorry to say, this is the core of the company. This is Rideshare, right? And we'll scream it loud and clear until you get it, until it resonates at those headquarters, until you guys understand that you do not exist. Your supersonic $42 million do not exist without us, right? So don't build your greed on our backs. the money can be shared, and we can both benefit. This is not just about the executives, right? When I look at Kalanick with $5.4 billion, cashing out New York City, penthouse, 35 million. Now, without doubt, he deserves, he deserves his wealth and his success. But never forget Tony, Dara, Travis, who got you there, right? And unless you guys start paying attention to these type of issues, unless you start building bridges to us, the drivers, your company's going nowhere. I can guarantee you that, because this ain't going to stop. This is going to be a hot topic in the news weekly, monthly, until you guys get your act together, right? This is not me going dark. One or two people I've heard, hey, your channel is going rather dark, rather salty. Not at all. Not at all. I got a report on Sign of the Times. If you look at my videos 2-3 years ago, big screenshots, a lot of money, rolling in. We were doing well. We could live with those mile rates. We could live with those minute rates. But what they've squeezed us to now just doesn't work, right? This is not fair anymore, right? So we got to stick in there and restore our credibility, our honor, right? And make them understand that, make them understand the worth of these millions of drivers to their companies, right? What are we worth to you, Dara? What are we worth to you, Logan? What are we worth to you, Tony West, right? Or are we truly not part of your company? You just need us for a purpose to get us to your next point? Let us know, because we want clarity. And we do these type of things to seek clarity, right? We push tremendous pressure on your companies media-wise to seek the clarity, to seek the respect, to seek the earnings that we deserve. This is why we're doing it. So if you're wondering why we're doing it, just come into the channel and read what these people are sharing. You'll quickly understand our heartbeat, right? What makes our cells operate. Anyway, my folks, my friends, drivers, Uber, Lyft drivers, thank you. We're keeping it short and sweet. I got to get out here. I'll be bringing out a couple of further videos. But again, breaking news, Gavin Newsom signs the AB5 bill. And we've got to push out another quick video on that. Have a fantastic day. Thumbs up. Tavo, Tom Young, Gary, Tony, Uberman Tampa, Paula, Trump Tribe, Loki, Gary Cabetta. Appreciate you all. Thank you. Thank you. Yep, I agree. Keep on hammering on Tony. Very well said. Keep on hammering on Tony. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. Vegas Inner Circle, much love to you, my friend. Paula, Gary, drive safe. Chris, Blanks in the house. Scott Tucker, thank you. Payman Ali, much love to Vegas. Guys, drive safe, and thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Have a great day.